All right, we're here with Saints Offensive Coordinator Pete Carmichael. And Pete, not so much about this year's draft, excuse me, but last year's draft, which turned out to be a historic one. First time since 1967, one team had the NFL Offensive and Defensive Rookies of the Year, but specifically about those offensive guys. And I guess we can narrow it down first to Ryan Ramczyk, the offensive tackle, who was a nice pickup at number 32 overall. But what was it that you guys saw about Ryan that made you feel like he would be not only a good fit for the Saints, but as it turns out, a solid starter for the Saints?
Well, our first exposure to him was here at the, for myself at the Combine. We had a chance to interview him in the formal interview, and at the time he wasn't doing anything because of his injury, but you got a chance to have him in that room and meet him and get to know him as a football player. And when he walked in, you felt great about his character, his demeanor, just the way he handled himself. And you thought, okay, it's going to be important to look at this guy's film when we get back, and really like what we saw on film.
What did you see on film specifically? We know he was a left tackle at Wisconsin, but what did you see specifically?
Well, I'd give credit to Dan Rochar and to Brendan Nugent for seeing that he would have a little versatility where he could move from side to side. But you saw all the traits that you saw this year. He's athletic, he's smart, and you can see on film that there was toughness. He knew what he was doing, and so we felt like this is our kind of guy.
When you talk to offensive linemen, they talk about how smart they are. But did you see that cerebral part of him once you got him on the field and said, what, this guy is adapting quickly and he'll be able to help immediately?
Yeah, I think absolutely, and I think. It was one of the first comments that Dan Rochar made after the first few practices where this guy got it and he understood the game.
Now, moving on to Alvin Kamara, what was the wow moment with him? I mean, we know what he turned out to be, but what was the wow moment with him?
Well, I would say that, we had an opportunity, Sean, myself, and Ronald Curry, we went up to Tennessee, had an opportunity to work him out individually. And the first thing you see is you're in the classroom with him before we go out to the workout, and you see a guy that's highly intelligent and talking through the game like a quarterback. And so you really felt good about that, and then you take him on the field, and I'm telling you, Sean, quickly as this workout was going on, he just had a vision of, I know how I can use this guy. And maybe, didn't see as much as the run game on film that maybe you saw this year that was pretty explosive, but really felt good with him coming out of the backfield, running routes, his ability to catch the ball. But he really had a very good season.
Another guy, as a rookie, at first he was splitting time between Adrian Peterson, Mark Ingram, and Alvin. What point did it get to where you said, what, no offense to Adrian, but this is a guy who we feel like this offense between he and Mark is going to be able to take off?
Yeah, I think that the more and more exposure you had to him, the more you saw him get reps live in games, and felt like this guy is special. And, we just felt like, hey, this guy needs to get more and more and more reps, and, with his experience, he's just going to keep getting better.
Did he have a certain toughness in the running game? Because, as you mentioned, there wasn't as much run exposure that you saw of him.
I think so. I think that you saw a guy that was hard to tackle, but wasn't afraid to, pour it up in there.
What makes a guy hard to tackle? Because I think Drew said it was his balance that kind of stood out in the way he kept his feet low to the ground.
That would have been the word I would have used. He has unbelievable balance. He's just kind of great flexibility, and he just has the ability to get hit and just kind of keep his, like you said, the balance and keep going.
Now looking at those two guys, Ryan and Alvin, how rare is it? I mean, you see it sometimes where teams are able to come up and be able to get a couple of rookie starters, but to be able to get two rookie starters on an offense that's as complex as this one can be.
Well, I think that, again, one of the things that Sean always talks about, and give credit to Jeff Ireland and his staff, leading us towards these guys that have intelligence and, the smart players play.
How difficult, I guess, or what do you look for when you come into a combine or a draft situation or a Senior Bowl? What are the characteristics you're looking for out of an offensive player?
Well, I think this is really our first exposure, this season as coaches. We didn't have an opportunity to go to the Senior Bowl, which is a good thing when you're not going because you're still playing. Mm-hmm. And so really, this is an opportunity to get to know these guys in the interview process, see how they handle themselves in there, see what they know a little bit about football, and then, getting a chance to see them on the field. But you really need to go back and watch the film. You get an opinion of how you feel about these guys as people. and then saying, hey, I'm excited to go watch this guy on film, and that process will really happen in the next couple weeks.
You know, did you get a good feel for, I guess, guys' life skills in these situations where you can kind of talk to them a little bit and find out, you know, what it is they know and don't know in terms of adapting to, I guess, regular life for in an NFL setting?
Yeah, I think that's all going on during the year with our scouts, and they do a great job coming back with a lot of information for us. And, you know, they've done a great job narrowing down maybe the clumps a little bit for us, feeling like, hey, these guys are fits for us. And then you get to know them, feel the same way.
I know it's hard to do comparisons, but you saw that '06 class, the offensive guys, whether it's, you know, Reggie Bush in there and Marcus Colston and Zach Strief. But is there a comparison, I guess, when you look at, you know, production-wise, what those guys were able to do and what these two guys were able to do for the offense?
Well, I think that, you know, maybe back in '06 draft, I think that, you know, maybe there was a little bit more development with a couple of those guys. You know, for a guy like Zach Strief, sat behind John Stinchcomb for a couple of years, had a chance to come in as like a jumbo tight end and play, and then those guys had a opportunity. And then, you know, Marcus ended up having a really productive season himself, where, you know, these guys got into the mix right away and have really, you know, improvement throughout the season.